Hey folks, welcome. David Brannen here to another edition of Ask a Lawyer Live. Today we're going to be talking about a very important topic, one of the most avoidable mistakes that you can make. It's avoidable, but it's a common mistake. That is being under the regular care of a physician while you are on an approved long-term disability claim. This is a mistake that I talk about in my book here, a step-by-step guide to winning your long-term disability claim. It is mistake number 8, if I do recall. Let me just check. Let me check. It is mistake number 5. Where is it? 7. Yeah, it's mistake number 8. There it is. Mistake number 8. I don't know if you can really read that. It's probably too blurry, but mistake number 8 is called not being under the regular care of a physician. So I review in this book, you can see I go through 11 mistakes that you should avoid to win your long-term disability claim, and not being under the regular care of a doctor is certainly one of them. Most policies require, if not all policies, I think I'm pretty safe to say, require you to be under the regular care of a physician. Sometimes this is medical doctor. There's different language, but so that is a requirement of the policy in order for you to receive benefits. So even if they determine that you're disabled and meet the criteria for disability, you still have to be under the regular care of a physician. Now, courts have interpreted this quite strictly to mean that you do have to be followed by a doctor, receiving regular treatment, and that gaps in treatment or not having a doctor can lead you to having your long-term disability benefits denied for breach of a policy, even if you continue to otherwise meet the definition of disability. So let's dive into this. Oh, wrong page. There we go. Okay. So why does regular care, what does it actually mean? I'm on the wrong slide here. Let's go back. Oops, did I upload the wrong slides here? Just one second. Just bear with me here. I think I might have uploaded my wrong slides. Let me check this again. Bear with me. I'm going to have to re-upload this. Oh, I think I know what I did. There, this should fix it. Let's get rid of that. Okay, there we go. Now we're working. Okay. All right. What does it actually mean to be under the regular care? So it means that you have an ongoing doctor-patient relationship and that you're attending appointments regularly, okay? That typically means every 1 to 3 months, but it basically means that you're following medical advice and you're attending the doctor when they are recommending you do so. Now, if you can't follow medical advice or you can't attend regularly as recommended by the doctor, that will be a problem, but you would need to have that documented and discussed why it is you're not able to do that. So you really do need to follow your medical advice and attend the doctor as regularly as they are saying is reasonable for your situation. So why does this requirement exist? So there's 2 key reasons why insurance companies require this. First of all, it's to show that you're taking reasonable steps to manage or improve your medical condition. Insurance companies don't want to pay long-term disability benefits to people who could get better with the right treatment or medical care. They want to only pay disability benefits to people who are unable to get better, even despite ongoing medical care and treatment. So that is what you would call the number one thing. This is also often called mitigating your losses or damages. Mitigation is a legal term that refers to the obligation that a person has to lessen the amount of losses that they are suffering. So the law requires everyone to take actions to minimize the harm and losses that they are suffering rather than just claiming those against someone else. So in the context of a disability claim, you have an obligation to make sure that you're doing everything possible to get better, return to the workforce. And so that is part of why the insurance company wants you to be seeing a doctor regularly, is it's part of your mitigation. And you have a duty of this mitigation at law generally, but you also have this as a requirement right in the insurance policy itself. Now, second, and almost just as important from my point of view, is that regular care of a doctor does help your credibility and shows that you are taking steps again to get better. It creates a good medical record that again helps show that you are doing everything you need to do and documents your symptoms and disability and the like. So it's important, as the ongoing medical care is the best evidence you can have to support your ongoing disability. So what happens if you don't get regular care? Well, I've kind of already said that you will risk having your benefits terminated or denied. Insurers will say you're not complying with care. Courts will often side with them if it's clear that you're not getting regular medical care. There is a real case. I talk about it in the book, but it was a lawyer from British Columbia who had she was on disability. I think it was she was on disability benefits. But while on an approved claim, had not seen a doctor or psychiatrist in over 2 years while on a long-term approved claim. The court ruled that the insurance company denied the benefits on the basis that she was not under the regular care of a doctor, even though she claimed like the depression was preventing her from seeking help. The court sided with the insurance company and denied the claim based on the failure to be under regular care during the time in question. So that's a situation where someone was on a long-term, they were approved into, I believe she was approved into the any occupation period. But even then, you are required to continue to be under the care of a doctor. So that was a case that definitely went against the insured person. Now, this raises the question of what do you do if you lose your doctor? So this is a real problem. Insurance companies know about it. Insurance companies are not able to take advantage of that necessarily, but at the same time, you have to show that you're doing everything possible to find a new doctor, or you're going to walk-in clinics or making arrangements to try to, again, mitigate the loss of having your full-time doctor. So the key here is you want to act quickly. If you lose a doctor, you want to start calling around, try to find one. You have to document your efforts. So if an insurance company tries to terminate your benefits on not having a doctor, you need to, it's not enough for you to say, oh, there's no doctors around, no one can get a doctor. You need to have more than that. You have to show that here's all the steps I've taken to try to get a doctor and have been unsuccessful. You don't want to you can't just say it. You have to show it, so that if the judge wants to know exactly what you've done, you can lay it all out. If you have not taken any steps and you're just making general statements that, well, people can't find doctors, no one can get a doctor, that will not hold up, and you would be found to be not under the regular care. Whereas if you can prove to a court that you have taken all steps to try to find a doctor, you've gone to walk-in clinics or whatever you've had to do, it's going to be very difficult for an insurance company to deny you based on not being under the regular care, because the court will recognize that it is sort of an impossibility, and that as long as if you're doing everything you can to get under the regular care of a doctor, that will be in the spirit of the policy. And I believe in most cases they would not be able to deny you, as long as, again, you're showing you're doing all you can do. Now, are there any exceptions? Yes, there are. There are exceptions. So courts have held in some cases that ongoing care is not required where the treatment would be deemed futile or just not appropriate. So again, it's all about what regular is always relative to each situation in assessing what is reasonable, what is a reasonable frequency of seeing a doctor given your medical condition, your treatment that you've had, the goals of treatment, all this stuff. So it could be very reasonable that no ongoing medical care is needed on a regular basis, and maybe you just come if there's something comes up. If that is deemed to be reasonable, then you would not be at fault for not being under the regular care. That is, however, like the exception, not the rule. And so you ultimately would need to go by your doctor and make sure you're following your doctor's recommendations. And if you are no longer seeing your doctor on any regular basis, like no scheduled, like every 3 months, every 6 months, once a year, if there's no scheduled basis, then you would need to have your doctor put in writing that that is what's appropriate in your situation. Otherwise, if it's a situation where you didn't follow up or the doctor was expecting you to follow up and book another appointment and you didn't do it, you're going to be found at fault and probably have your claim denied over not being under the regular care. So, some practical strategies. So let's talk about some tips here. Ideally, as again, we have to be careful here, but once to every 3 months, having a visit with your doctor is appropriate in a lot of cases, not every case, but that is just something at least every 3 months is something you want to think about. If you have a chronic, ongoing medical condition that's causing disability that needs to be managed by a doctor, or if you're having medications managed, that kind of thing. You want to follow your doctor's advice, and have a documented reason if you don't follow their advice, a reason from the doctor why you're unable to follow what the ideal treatment would be. You want to keep records of your visits and communications with the doctor. A lot of that will be already just in the doctor's file, but it wouldn't hurt for you to have records of that too, in case for some reason the doctor's records aren't available or whatever. You have records of when you went to the doctor to prove that you've been seeing a doctor on a regular basis. A lot of people will just have it in their phone, and you'd be able to reproduce your calendar from your iPhone or whatever, would show all the doctor's visits, appointments, and that kind of thing. And it's better to be upfront with the insurer if there are going to be any changes in care or availability of when you can go. If there's going to be any disruption you're better to be upfront about it with the insurer and say, here's what's going on. My doctor is going on a sabbatical, retiring, like whatever. You're better to be upfront with the insurer and tell them, here's what's going on and here's what I'm doing. Again, that goes to your credit. If there's ever a question about why you're not under regular care, if you've been upfront about it and show that you're taking action, the insurer will have a very hard time trying to argue that you're not under the regular care of a doctor. However, if they find out that your doctor retired and you've just been passively waiting around to get a call or whatever, like you're not taking any actions to find a new doctor, you could be in a load of trouble. Like they would maybe have grounds to say that you're not under the regular care. And again, that could lead to you having your benefits denied. All righty. Finally here, let's some of my final points here. So regular care is proof of your commitment to getting better and to make sure your obligation to follow all of your obligations. And it protects you from unexpected cuts. And again, I'm kind of repeating myself, showing that you're doing everything right. This mistake is it really is avoidable. So again, it all boils down to what is reasonable in your situation. Your doctor is the best person to make that decision, and you shouldn't necessarily second guess that. So you have to be clear that you're following the recommendations of your doctor and what would be reasonable for your treatment of your medical condition in Canada. That's how it will be judged by the courts, and insurance companies will be looking at it from what's reasonable care in Canada for someone for your condition. How often should they be going to the doctor? What should they be doing? That is what the insurance company is going to be looking at. Okay. Now you can read more about that in my book if you wish under mistake number 8 out of 11. And now I can do some live questions for people if you have any. See, we've got a few people watching right now. So if you have any questions that you would like, please put them in. While we're waiting for those, I am going to pop over to just to look at There, you should be able to. Nope. Should be able to hear me now, I think. Sorry about that, folks. I don't know why my mic is out on me. Um, ugh. I apologize for that. Okay. Looks like it's working now. Okay. Was there sound at the beginning, or was there just no sound the whole time? I'm trying to figure out if there was any of this that got muted, if I have to redo the whole thing or not. I probably won't redo the whole thing. Just kind of go from here. Um, but there should be sound now. It shows me having sound coming through, so hopefully that's better. Yep, it does show my mic working now. Only when you started answering, the sound was off. Okay. Okay, so the sound just went off. So let's go through your question here. The question is, how often should one see their doctor? Well, it's kind of like I just said in the presentation. How often it is really depends on what your medical condition is. It's not really for me to say. It has to be what's reasonable for your condition. And if you're under ongoing management of any medications or anything like that, the answer might be that you don't need ongoing, like you need a doctor, but you don't need to have a scheduled appointment. That's really up to you and your doctor. So what it could mean is if you're not sure about this, you could just next time you make an appointment with your doctor for something, you should just discuss it with them and saying like, given my condition, like how often should I be coming? Just have it on the record with the doctor talking about it, and then you could just go with whatever they recommend. There is really no right answer to this. Like I can't tell you that you should be going every 3 months or anything like that. Maybe early on in your case you would be going that often, but once you're past the 2 years, it's really a case by case. But like I said, the example of the lawyer who lost their claim, they were past the 2 years. They just didn't have a doctor. They weren't going, didn't have one, and the insurance company found out and just cut off their claim. So you need to still have a doctor, and you should be checking in with the doctor every now and then, especially if you're under any kind of medication management or anything like that, and just have the discussion with your doctor next time you see them. Like, I do have to be under the regular care. I want to make sure I'm coming enough for, as I don't want to overdo it, but just see what they say about how often they want you coming, and then it's on the record how often they want you coming to see them. That's what I would say there. Okay, great question. I'm going to, while I'm waiting for more questions, or if you want any clarification on that, please go ahead. But I will be just answering some questions on the forum. Let's see. Cost of living increase. So this is an older one that's had a bunch of. This is what happens with a lot of these old threads on here. A lot of them get newer posts. This person says, I've been on my permanent disability for 14 years now, and I was on the staff benefits, not the hourly employees benefits. Should I know there was a COLA stipulation in there. Should I get a lawyer? I did the math, and at 3% for going on 14 years, a lot of money. They have been screwing me. Do I need to talk to you guys? I think so. So this person said the first step, if you think, so this is a case where someone thought they might, the insurance company may not have been adding the cost of living increase to their annual benefits. So Buckets is saying quite, and I've already liked this, that you should be asking the insurance company whether or not your policy did have it, whether it did have COLA. And this one says this person was asking for some clarifications, and the original poster said, yes, exactly. COLA should have been in there for the last 14 years. Should have been paid, isn't. I did some number crunching, and that's like 200,000 or so. There are also other peculiarities I'd like to discuss. I'm sure once you hear them, you will agree that these things should have been brought to light. Okay, and then they clarified here, looks like a while ago. Hello, yes, my LTD claim has a COLA, the agreement, and they haven't increased it 1 cent since I started 14 years ago. I looked over the contract that a fellow supervisor had got for me to look at, and most definitely does have COLA. My brother and Z crunched the numbers at 3%, and my gross LTD payments are $58,000 a year. Over the 14 years, they haven't adjusted that after every year. They owe me just north of 200,000. That is just in back pay to get caught up. My old lawyer screwed me. I really need help. I don't have barely any money, but I might be able to get you guys some money up front. But most of it will be after we win, which we will. I'm always sure. I'd sure like to talk to you. Okay, so this person, I don't know if this person thinks that the people responding are from our firm, but they're just people on the post here. I've got a slam dunk case. So a lot of this is from a lawyer's point of view. When I see people saying they have a slam dunk case and all these things, that is rarely ever true. And I would recommend, if you're talking with a lawyer, never say those kind of words, because that will just send lawyers running for the hills when people say they have a slam dunk case. The problem with that is you may not have an objective view of what's going on. And when you come in thinking that way, it's very hard for a lawyer to, they may be worried that you won't be open to like hearing the bad sides of your case if you've already decided that you have a perfect, easy case. Because I will certainly say I don't know anything about this situation, but it is not a slam dunk case necessarily. In fact, I would highly doubt that it's a slam dunk case. That is, you're just better off not using that kind of language when trying to get a lawyer to help, because they will be very concerned that you will not look at this realistically or take legal advice. So some of the problems that could be going on here is that this person is talking about COLA 14 years ago, COLA, cost of living increasing. They're saying my brother, they got a copy of the policy. So the first thing I'd want to know is, did they get a copy? Did they get the right copy of the policy? Because this person's benefit started 14 years ago. That do they have a copy of the plan from 14 years ago, or do they have a more recent copy of the plan? If a more recent copy of the plan has COLA, that does not mean that it was there 14 years ago when this person started. Now, it's possible it was. It's possible that there should have been COLA paid, and but it's also possible they don't have the right copy of the policy, quite honestly. That would be the first thing we'd have to look. They say they have an old lawyer that screwed them, so I'm not quite sure what that would mean. Um, Again, as a lawyer, when I see people saying their other lawyer screwed them, it also, for me, makes me more reluctant to want to take on someone as a client because I don't want to be the next lawyer that screwed them in their mind, right? So that's a very subjective kind of idea that they've been screwed by the other lawyer. So again, it's just I would avoid this kind of language if you're really wanting to work with lawyers because that will also send lawyers running for the hills. They don't want to work with someone who's talking about how other lawyers screwed them. I would rather than say that, I would talk with the new lawyer and describe what happened with the other lawyer and let the new lawyer say, "Oh yeah," like let them just hear the facts, not the kind of saying that they screwed you. Say what they did and let the lawyer understand whether what you're saying is that lawyer screwing you or maybe you weren't screwed by the other lawyer. This is just how things worked or whatever. But it's going to make it hard for new lawyers who want to work with you if you're saying that kind of stuff. I don't know. I don't know if this person ever contacted us. Actually, I have no idea. I do know these cases are not straightforward. I don't know how they're doing the math. Not necessarily worth 200,000 at all. So that would be things we'd have to look at here. But again, we would need to get the policy. If it turns out that they were owed this, then you would want to act on it quickly. So like this person started bringing this up around when? Looks like they started bringing it up February of this year. So once they discover, like, I'd want to know how long have you known this as a problem? Because if this person has known this was a problem for 12 years and hasn't done anything, now we're into limitations of actions. So even though there's 14 years owing, if they have discovered this years and years ago and haven't done anything, then there's going to be limitations of actions and you may only be able to go back 1 or 2 years. If they've just discovered this recently, like back when they posted this in February, if they've just discovered this, then possibly you could go back to the whole 14 years. The limitations wouldn't apply, but there's also kind of a limitation issue here. So that's just the concern I would have on that one. All right, we got another question here. It's a follow-up question. So it says here, I see a psychiatrist every 3 to 4 months to manage a psychiatric condition and manage medication. Would this be? Oh, yeah, that would be definitely regular care. Yeah. Regular care just means there's some pattern to it and that you actually have a doctor. So, yes, if you're seeing a doctor every 3 to 4 months, that would absolutely be regular care and seems appropriate based that you've been on LTD 4 years, you're in the any occupation phase. So, no, that seems perfectly fine. Quite honestly, that seems perfectly fine to me. Okay, let's go peek at this again. So I don't mean to call out this person who is, maybe they're even listening, I have no idea, but I'm just trying to give some constructive advice on you wouldn't want to use this kind of language approaching a law firm because you will have trouble finding a lawyer to work with you. If you're talking about being screwed by other lawyers, you got a perfect case. These are just kind of cliche things that lawyers hear all the time from people. And they will be reluctant to want to work with you because this type of person could be angry if I start telling them, pointing out mistakes or problems with this. And it just may color the whole thing. So try to keep an open mind. Lawyers they don't have any interest to tell you other than what is realistic in the situation. Lawyers like me can only take on your case if I think that there is money there to get you paid so that I can get paid as well. But I don't know. It would be interesting to see. I would want to know. It's possible I've already spoke with this person. I can't remember doing this review, but again, you'd have to see the policy and when did this person find out? Those would be the key things that I'd want to know. All righty. Let's see what else we have here. Income splitting. We talked about this one yesterday. Okay. So this is one we were talking over yesterday. And they were wondering if, okay, yeah, they were getting pension money. They were going to split their husband's pension money between them to do better on taxes or something like that. And they wanted to know if doing the pension splitting and getting pension income reported on their taxes could affect their LTD. And I said that you gotta look at the LTD policy, probably disclose it to the insurer, and definitely tell the insurance company, because you don't want to be doing this tax strategy for basically just shifting money around, because it's not income you're earning from active employment. But if they're going to attribute the income to you for income tax purposes, it still could be considered income as far as your LTD goes. You don't want to have 5 years down the road the LTD saying, oh, whoa, wait a minute, we didn't know you were getting this income. So now, even though you're not working, it is an income that should be deducted. So you owe us back $75,000 or $100,000 or whatever it is. You don't want to have that show up. Yeah. I would say, like, yeah. Okay, I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to give any more advice because I don't know enough to really give more advice. But I would say, like, just talk to the insurer and say, here's what's going on. Is this something that's going to be deducted? It's not like, it does seem like it's more of a tax planning type of situation. It's not like they have some new source of income. Maybe they just don't want to deal with any issues with the insurer, so they're better off paying a little bit of taxes rather than even start to mess around with this at all. Maybe that's what they're thinking, and I couldn't blame them if that's what they wanted to do, honestly. All right, let's see what else we have here. See, did I have any? No. Thought I had another question I hadn't answered. Let's just scroll here and see. Okay, this is one we didn't answer. Let's see. What can I do to keep my retroactive payment from getting deducted by monthly regular payment? I thought that was for the months I didn't receive a payment. The insurance company, Jammer says the insurance company should only deduct the retro for the months they were paying you. Are you saying the retro goes back a month before the insurance company started paying you? Don't sign a form saying Service Canada can pay the insurance company directly. Yeah, I agreed with that. This person then said, I was told at Service Canada that I've been approved for CPP. I was wondering if you get the retroactive payment right away with your first monthly payment. Yes, you do. I haven't received my approval yet, but it's confirmed I am approved. Yeah, they pay it right away. You get the retroactive the same time you get the first month payment, usually, maybe sometimes even before. So this person says, why would any money we receive from the government go to our private insurance company? We are deducted money every month off our paychecks by the Canadian government so that we're laid off by the company or union we work for due to illness or injury, that they will pay us a monthly amount of money. Otherwise, why would we get two separate deductions on our paycheck every month? So Jammer's saying the only money the insurance company paid you is deducted. They don't want you to get paid twice for the same time period. They pay us a monthly amount of money until we are able to go back to work. Not they will pay some other company that also paid. Yeah. I think ultimately what it doesn't make a lot of sense for people to say, why should I have to pay back the insurance company for money I'm getting from CPP disability and things? It all boils down to that is what's in the policy. In theory, these insurance policies are negotiable. So in theory, you can pay for an insurance policy that doesn't allow deduction of CPP disability, but most people don't pay for those policies because they're more expensive. That's what it boils down to. Ultimately, the insurance companies will sell a company a group policy that does not allow deduction for CPP disability benefits, but the cost will like double, right? So when companies are looking at buying these group policies, they're looking to get they don't want double the cost. They're going to say most people are not even going to take this disability benefit. And especially if employees are paying if this is part of your cost of your benefits, most employees are going to want the benefits to be as cheap as possible coming off their paycheck. And so that is why you're not going to see long-term disability. You're not going to see people wanting to pay for those policies. That's what it is ultimately. Yeah, okay. This buckets is saying the same thing. For an LTD policy that doesn't claw back, would have to buy a more expensive group policy, but most companies are cheap and don't do this. That is 100. I've already liked that in the past. So, yeah, nothing really to add on that one. Okay, what's this one say? This one says, I'm wondering if anyone has experience with having their LTD insurer company assist with applying for a CPP. Yes, we've heard of that a bunch. I've been on LTD, passed my change of definition, had a phone conversation with a consulting firm to complete my application. I have been denied CPP, and now at the tribunal level, I have not seen my application nor spoken with anyone. I have been leaving messages for my worker's assistant at the consulting firm, but as of now have not heard back from anyone. I'm concerned that I will have to attend the tribunal meeting with no info. Has anyone else been through this process? This person, Jammer, asked, were the consulting firm hired by the insurance? They said yes. And I did contact my case manager, who said they don't share info or discuss things with the consultants. They suggested I leave a message, which I did for the 8th time in 2 weeks. I also left a message with a manager at the consulting firm. So it's unfortunate. You would just have to, you could contact the tribunal in this case and say that you need things paused because you have not been able to get in touch with your representative. When you're at the tribunal phase, you are going to be receiving documents from the tribunal. So if you have a representative, they would go to the representative. And so this person may not even know what documents they have. So it's kind of late now because this is an older message, but you could get in touch with the tribunal directly and say, I can't hear from my representative. I need you to pause things and not move forward until I know what's going on. You don't want to have tribunals set and all this without you knowing anything that's going on. Your case may not be ready to go. There may be documents you need to get in. Once you lock down tribunal dates and things, you can no longer submit new documents. So you don't want to get stuck in that kind of situation. They never came back and said what happened. So I wonder whatever happened with this case. It was 2019. So that's years ago. All right. Okay. Well, I'm going to leave it there. Let's take a look here at my book. Here it is here. We talked about it today. If you want to get a copy, you can just go down to the comments, or not the comments, but the description down below. There's a link where you can click to download a free copy of this book. You scroll through it, you'll find the 11 mistakes are in there as well. Number 8 we talked about today, and hopefully I was not muted, which sounds like I wasn't. So you can learn a bit about how to avoid mistake number 8 and all the other 11 mistakes in there. I wish you folks all the best. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Take care.